Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1306B and today's date is June 14th, 2017 and the title of the episode is In an Act of Desperation, All Agendas Are Now Pushed. Prepare yourself for the big one. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with David Quintieri from the Money GPS. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. You'll see the video there. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com site, scroll down a little bit. You'll see it on the right-hand side. You can play it right on the site. Same thing with News Sentinel. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the video on the site. Or you can go to Steemit, and all you need to do is type in steemit.com at X22 Report. It will bring you right to the X22 Report blog, and you can see the video there and play it right there. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as we can see, the testimony that Comey gave and the testimony that Jeff Sessions gave, well, it went nowhere. This whole Russian collusion, all of this Russian hacking thing, it's all falling apart, and they know this. And we can see that they're ready to take this to the next level. And they're still trying many different things to try to get Trump any way they possibly can. And they're trying to do this in legal ways. Now, basically what they're trying right now, they're trying a new narrative. And this new narrative has to do with the emoluments clause. Now, this clause is a provision in Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution that prohibits the federal government from granting titles of nobility and restricts members of the government from receiving gifts, emoluments, offices, or titles from foreign states without the consent of Congress. So, 200 Democrats right now, they filed a lawsuit, and they're all pushing this, saying that, well, we do have a case because there are foreign individuals that are staying in Trump's hotels, and this violates the clause. Now, legal scholars right now are very skeptical, particularly since the lawsuit was filed only by Democrats, the minority party in both houses of Congress. And just because they can't convince their peers doesn't mean you can go to court to get what you want. And this is coming from a law professor, Andy Gruel, saying that generally a lawmaker can sue if he or she has suffered individual injury. But there's a problem here. None of these legislators, well, they didn't suffer any type of injury. It didn't do anything to them. And of course, this is nonsense. They're reaching for anything they possibly can. Now, what we're seeing happen right now is they're running out of tools. They're running out of ammunition. They're running out of ideas on how to get him legally. They pretty much tried everything. Does that mean they're done? No. But they're trying everything they possibly can. Now, this is most likely going to go absolutely nowhere. And what we should be worried about is what they're going to be up to next. And this is what we should all be worried about, because they will take this to the next level. Now, what's the next level? Most likely an assassination. And they like to broadcast things ahead of time. Now, out in New York City, they have Shakespeare in the Park. And there were a lot of corporate sponsors like Bank of America and others that were sponsoring this, and they backed out because they started to realize what this play was about. Now, basically what they did was they put Trump in there, they put his wife in there, they dressed him in suits, he had the red tie, and they showed an assassination of the president. Now, of course, the corporate sponsors said, well, wait a minute, we're not going to be involved in this, but American Express, New York Times, they said, oh no, this is fine. This, to me, is a area where they're telegraphing this to the rest of the world, saying, see, this is what's going to happen next. They always like to tell people what they're about to do. And this is what we should be worried about, because if this attempt on Trump's life does not work, and they are going to try it one way or another, they're going to move then to the next level. And that is the main event. That's the big one. And this is what we're watching right now, because what is happening around the country, they're losing control of what is happening. Trump is basically unwinding everything that they've done over the many, many years. And they don't like this. And the last part of it is cutting off the funding to the elite, to the deep state. And once he does that, game's over. Because no one's going to do anything for you if you're not paying them. And this is what this is all about. And this is something that you can't easily do right out of the box. I think he tried to do this by writing all these executive orders, going after them, and he saw how they fight. So now he's maneuvering and he's playing their game. And you have to do it a little bit at a time, reel them in, take them, and then put them back out there and try to basically build all of this and try to bring people to your side. And we're going to explain this a little bit later in this report and how he's trying to do this actually with this false flag event that happened on the baseball field. And we can see that how he's trying to turn this around, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. Now, India and Pakistan, they have joined the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and they have been granted full membership, and this is part of Russia and China with other countries. And basically, we can see what's happening is that India and Pakistan, they moved away from the United States. And we're seeing a lot of countries do this right now. In Germany, we can see that Germany is planning a new law giving authorities the right to look at private messages, and they want children fingerprinted as young as 6. Now, what they're going to do is that they don't like encryption. And we know that the United States, especially when Comey was the director of the FBI under Obama, he was calling for no encryption. Because this way we can't stop the terrorists. There are no terrorists. The terrorists are in our government. The terrorists are the elite. That's the terrorist organization. So what they're doing right now in Germany, because they're saying that the encrypted messaging services like WhatsApp and Signal and many others, well, this is what terrorists use. And they can't monitor these apps. So what they want to do, and this is one of their options, they're considering source telecom surveillance, where authorities install software on everyone's phone to relay messages before they are encrypted. I mean, right now, it's illegal, and they want this to be legal in Germany. Austria is also planning laws to make it easier to monitor encrypted messages as well. And we can see all these false flags that are occurring in all these countries where there's more soldiers that are put on the ground, where they remove the rights of the people, and there's more surveillance, CCTV cameras, more monitoring. This is what they've been trying to do. They want to control all the people. They want to know what everyone is doing. This has nothing to do with terrorism. This is about controlling the population. This is what the elite have been after for a very long time. Now, out in France, President Macron, he wants to keep the country in a state of emergency and never come out of a state of emergency. We see Marie-Jane Audi, vice president of the prominent union representing judges, saying that this whole country is ending up in the state of emergency, but they are actually making it eternal. She says this is an intellectual scam. She said, imagine a fascist-like group rises to power and all the legal instruments would be in place to commit abuses. This is what's happening right now in France. And again, this tramples on individual and shared liberties, and it takes away people's rights. This is what the elite want. And if you notice, this is all happening in all those countries we see the false flags occurring in. And this was done for a reason. Now, out in the Philippines, we see that there are U.S. troops. They are on the ground. And right now, they're helping out. They're really not battling the terrorist groups inside of the Philippines. And Duterte, he is out there still saying that he never invited the U.S. troops into his country. And he keeps saying this, but something about this makes no sense, because this is a man who actually does what he says. And he really does whatever he wants, and he basically has an iron fist where if he doesn't want something, he gets rid of it. He said he was going to go after the CIA drug trafficking within his country. Guess what he did? He went after them. He threw them out. during the presidency of Obama. He said, listen, you're an idiot. I don't like you. Called him names and said, we're not dealing with the U.S. We're turning towards Russia and China. And now he's saying that he never gave permission for the U.S. troops to be in his country, but he's not throwing them out, which is very interesting, which tells us that some type of deal behind the scenes was made between him and Trump. Because believe me, he would have gotten rid of them very, very quickly. Now, right now, the U.S. troops, they are not fighting in the country. They're there for a support role. And they are giving them information about where the terrorist groups are. They're flying reconnaissance drones and things like that in the country. And we'll have to watch this closely and see how this plays out. But I find it very interesting that he keeps saying that they weren't invited, and I don't understand why he's not throwing them out. So there's something else going on behind the scenes. Now, in the Wall Street Journal and Reuters, they have reported that Trump has given Pentagon unilateral authority to set Afghan troop levels, and he's taken the power and given it to the Pentagon. Now remember, the Pentagon is not working together right now. The deep state does control parts of the Pentagon, and there are individuals that are working with Trump that are in the Pentagon. And we can see out in Syria that this is the case because Tillerson came out and made it perfectly clear that the president does not have the authorization to fire upon Syrian troops, Iranian troops, Russian troops. And that was a signal to the world that, listen, it's not Trump who is doing this. And I don't believe it is him doing this. I believe that this is the deep state because this has been their plan all along. Now, this story seems very suspicious. First of all, it's coming out of the Wall Street Journal, which we know is not a truthful corporate media outlet at all because everything they've been reporting on turns out to be pretty much fake. Now, when we look at this, we know that Trump has been giving the Pentagon more authority, a certain section of the Pentagon, and giving them authority to do their work. And what we've been noticing is they keep saying their work is to go after the Islamic State. It's not about regime change. It's not about going after leaders. It's about getting rid of the paid mercenaries. We see out in the Middle East where now they're pointing the fingers at Qatar, where they're saying this is where the terrorists are. And I think what is happening right now, he wants certain part of the Pentagon to work with those individuals in these countries to rid the countries of these terrorist groups once and for all. We know for a fact that we've been in all of these countries because we've never been going after any terrorists. We've been going after absolutely nothing. The whole thing is fake to keep us in these countries. And what they do is they just say they're going after them. They bomb a couple places. They tell the paid mercenaries to move to a different location. They bomb those areas. And nothing ever happens. In those countries where they're trying to have regime change like Syria, well, they instruct the paid mercenaries on where to go. They instruct them where they're going to bomb. And it allows the paid mercenaries to take more and more of the land. So we're going to have to see how this plays out in Afghanistan because we've been in Afghanistan a very long time. And at this point, from all the actions of Trump, I don't think he's going in there to have this drawn-out war because there's no reason to have a drawn-out war because this war can come to an end very, very quickly in Afghanistan if we really wanted it to. Now, we understand that he's still playing the game, but we're going to have to watch in what he exactly does. Now, right now, there's been no decision on if there's troops going in there or troops coming out of there. All they're saying is that there's a new plan that they're creating, and we'll have to see what that is. Now, a couple reports ago, we reported that, yes, the U.S. coalition forces, they used white phosphorus, and today we can see that New Zealand Brigadier General Hugh McAllislan, he admitted that, yes, the coalition forces, they used white phosphorus in Mosul. They said they were assisting civilians attempting to flee the Islamic State, and a lot of people got hit with the white phosphorus. They were burned, they got sick, And again, this white phosphorus is not supposed to be used for this, or it's not supposed to be ignited over individuals or civilians. This is a war crime. Now, think about it. If Assad has done this and he came out and he said, oh, yes, I use white phosphorus to get the civilians out of there, they'd say, well, he did this on purpose to torture these individuals. So what did the U.S. and the coalition forces use this for? Were they really trying to help them? Most likely not. Because we've seen in the past exactly what they have been doing all along. They don't care about the civilians. What they care about is getting to their goal, and their goal is to get Assad. And I don't think they've ever given up on this, because what we're seeing right now is that the forces in Syria, they are not giving up. At Tanf, what they've done is they brought in a long-range missile system. Now, this missile system has a reach of 300 kilometers. They could have defended the Al-Tanf base from Jordan with this system. Instead, they brought it over the border. Now, why did they do this? Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to push forward. They're trying to get rid of the Syrian forces. They're trying to create a hole and take control of the border once again. This is what they're really trying to do. And they haven't given up. And this is why Tillerson was out there saying, listen, we don't have authorization to fire upon these individuals, which is telling everyone that this is a different faction that is running the mission out in Syria. And we know there are different factions out there because we know that McCain has visited Syria, Iran, Ukraine, and he speaks with the paid mercenaries. He works with the paid mercenaries. So we know there are individuals that are actually pushing the agenda in this area. And remember, the president right now, he doesn't have full control of anything right now because the deep state is so entrenched in government. He's removing them a little bit at a time, but you can't get to everywhere. It's completely impossible. Now, today in London, we saw a London fire, and already they're calling for the Brexit to be called off. Now, was this a false flag to stop the Brexit right now? Because we know that the EU, they want it completely stopped. They don't want this to go any further whatsoever. And we'll have to look into this a little bit further, but we can see that this was horrific. The building was burnt down, and we'll have to look at further details to see how this all plays out. Now, we had another false flag, which happened in Virginia, right outside of D.C., at a baseball field where there were congressmen practicing there, and we could see there was a shooter. In the early morning hours, there was a shooter that came and decided to start shooting people. He had a rifle and had a scope on there, and people that were on the ground said that he was asking who was Republican, are they Democrats, and when he found out they were Republicans, that's when he opened fired. Now, this individual, James T. Hodgkinson, a 66-year-old Illinois man, he was there and he was prepared to shoot someone because he had his weapon. Now, again, who is this person? It's funny, he's from Illinois and he's there exactly where they were practicing. And it is revealed that he was shot by the police and now he is dead. Now, he was a never-Trumper. He supported Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders came out and he said that this was disgusting. He was sickened by this despicable act. And Rand Paul said that everyone probably would have died except for the fact that the Capitol Police were there. And people are taking this in different ways. We know there's an investigation going on in the Capitol Hill Police. They've basically confiscated some computers and other equipment from Wasserman Schultz, and she wants them back. That's one reason. The other reason is basically telling everyone that, look, someone with a weapon was able to stop this person. I mean, there are so many agendas associated with this, and we need to see exactly what they're doing with all this, because we see a congressman is calling for restrictions on social media following the shooting at the baseball practice. And again, you could see the agendas of all these individuals. Well, we need to cut down on social media. Well, we need to have everyone microchipped. Well, we need gun control. And of course, the Governor, Terry McAuliffe, is out there calling for gun control, saying, oh, it would have been a lot better if nobody had weapons there at all. Actually, it would have been better if people were armed. They would have stopped them, and maybe no one would have been killed, or no one would have been hit. And we could see right now that all of this was done to push certain agendas. And again, we have to remember, we talked about Shakespeare in the Park and how they had a Trump person dressed in a suit with a red tie, blonde hair. They had his wife there, and they put on this play and they simulated an assassination attempt on the president's life. Now they have this individual who does not like Trump whatsoever. He hates him. He's a never-Trumper. He has a Facebook page where it talks about killing, talks about going after the Republican Party, going after Trump, how much he hates him. And to me, this is the deep state telegraphing what they're going to do next. Now, we have to look at this whole entire situation. One, he had a rifle with a scope. He lives in Illinois. That weapon is illegal in his home state. So again, where did he get this weapon? We see at the same time this is happening, there was another incident in San Francisco that had to do with a shooter. And you can see that those gun control individuals, they're out there and they are saying that, yes, we need gun control, we need gun control. Most likely what's going to happen after this situation, we're going to see gun sales increase. They'll probably surge after this. But we see that Trump is actually using this to his advantage. Throughout all of this and everything that's been going on, he is calling for unity among the government officials in wake of what has happened here. That they should all work together. Let's not be separated, and let's work together to make this country. Now, does this mean that this is actually going to happen? No, but he's using this to send this message out there. And how do you argue with it? No, we don't want to work with you. This is a terrible thing and maybe we should stop this. Now think about why this individual did this. Now, most likely he was a patsy. He was pushed into doing this in certain ways. We know that he didn't like Trump. And we can see that this looks really bad for the Democratic Party, first of all, because it shows that they're the ones who commit this type of violence, where they would kill someone just for being a Republican, which is ridiculous because you don't see Republicans going out and saying, you know, we need to kill a Democrat. We're all U.S. citizens. We're all part of this country, and we need to start acting like it. We need to come together and point to the real enemy. And the real enemy are those individuals that are trying to conquer and divide us, that are creating all these false flags around the world to take away the people's rights. And I think it is time where the country needs to start coming together, and we need to stop saying you're Republican, you're Democrat, you're independent, you're black, you're white, you're Asian. It makes no difference. We're in this together, and to make this country great, we need to work together. We need to come together as a people and point to the real enemy. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.